All right, this is like my fourth take. Let's see how this goes. First of all, Dr. Siegel, hi. Some good background to give you. I talked about it a lot last session, so I wanted to make sure I updated you and kept you in the loop. A lot of finger guns here. But I currently work as a paraprofessional at the Learning Center in Coatesville. We're an alternative school. All of our kiddos have an IEP. The behavior, we pull from districts all over. So we go all the way as far out to Reading and all the way over to Philly. So we cover a huge area. We primarily serve kids who have like behavioral, emotionally needs. A lot of them have pending charges, and either they're awaiting the outcomes of their cases, or the outcomes of their cases have determined that they need to have a particular amount of time with us. So that's what we have. Yeah, a lot of behavioral, emotional needs. However, we do see a lot of ASD, specific learning disabilities, and a lot of speech and language impairment as well. Those are usually concurrent with the emotional and behavioral. So that's everything that's the lens that I kind of operate from, especially with activities like these. So I wanted to keep you updated there. Some more finger guns for you. I got to stop that terrible habit. No one will take me seriously in a professional setting. So for the first question, the two districts that Ryan and I compared were Wayne Highlands and Philadelphia. Wayne Highlands is more of like suburban rural, Philadelphia obviously being more urban. Philadelphia overall district enrollment, 132,520 versus Wayne Highlands, 2,524. So immediately you're just like, how? And to me right there, like what I think of when I see stuff like that, I'm like, we have such a standardized system, and yet like each of these subsystems within this larger system of public education are dealing with completely different demographics. I'm like, how are you going to standardize a system and properly serve each of the unique communities? Hell no, there's no way. So that was like the first thought that kind of came to mind. And then seeing number of schools: Wayne Highlands 6, Philadelphia 217. The overall first of all, I'll talk about the differences, and then I'll talk about the similarities and why those were significant to me, and kind of how they spoke to poverty. So looking at the most obvious differences, the racial and ethnic demographics. For Wayne Highlands, it's 92% white. However, if you go over to Philadelphia, about 50% Black or African American, 20% Hispanic, 8% Asian, 6% multiracial, white 14%, and everything else below 1%. So right off the bat, you're like, all right, seems to be a lot of divide racially and ethnically speaking. And then looking at the special education by disability data points, this was kind of interesting to me. They were kind of similar. They weren't the only. Philadelphia led in all areas except for specific learning disability. Wayne was at 44%, whereas Philadelphia was at 38%. But overall, Philadelphia still had more. More of instances of these specific learning disabilities. But there was still a pretty good presence within, the Wayne districts, which I thought was interesting. I was like, oh, I didn't expect to find that. I was kind of thinking of Wayne districts as like, posh, white districts like in this area. But I had a very different picture painted once I read. First of all, love that they included economically disadvantaged, foster care, homeless, and military connected in these data points. I know I spoke to on the first day of school that pathologizing, a lot of students, occurs, and I don't like that. I disagree with that. I don't think trauma, specifically the trauma of poverty, is discussed enough in special education. So hats off to whoever made sure that those data points got collected. I thought that was awesome. And this is where it gets super interesting. Philadelphia is at 69%, which is just a horrifying data point to look at in and of itself. But Wayne Highlands is actually at 46%. And that kind of, to me, explained why the special education by disability data points, the disparities weren't as I don't know, it didn't demonstrate as much disparity as I expected it to. Still demonstrated it, but, not in such a great capacity. And I think that really speaks to looking at how both seem to struggle significantly with economic disadvantagement. That to me really speaks just to what great of an impact poverty has on a child's education. And I think one of the most proactive ways, to further education for the better would be to actually take the focus off the school and focusing more at, at poverty level and, the economics of it all. So I thought that was super interesting. Definitely shed some light. Looking at so your thoughts on comparing two schools in one large district, that's a question number 2. I'm already at 5 minutes. I will keep it under 10, I promise. I'm sorry, I'm very verbose. South Philly and Central, again, population's always, I was just like, whoa, what? Central High School is at 2,397, whereas South Philly is just above 650. And again, to me, I thought about the different administrations that pour into those high schools, and I was thinking again, we have all these standardized systems that are supposed to serve in equal capacities all these different, institutions of education. But I'm just like, how do you standardize stuff that varies so greatly? And, I think there needs to be a less standardized and more individualized approach, at least, per school, in their approach to education, which we do in some capacity, but not enough in my opinion, because if there were, my school would look, a lot different. In regards to, let's see, what did I find interesting here? Central, I kind of expected to find this at Central when we were talking about, sorry, lost my train. Gonna pause this. I'll post a part 2, which will be under 3 minutes because I'm at 7 now.